welcome to another episode of Amusing Minds Podcast. Today we have a guest. The Artisan Rogue is what he calls himself. His name is Mario. He's an illustrator and he dabbles in animation and sculpting and just all kinds of different types of art. Today, have you ever faced challenges trying to be an artist or a creative? Tried building a freelancing business or there and feel like you can be a working. Hopefully by the end of this episode, you will find out what that can mean in 2021. What is it like trying to have that freelancing business in 2021 or trying to be creative in 2021, and what does that look like?
I could totally start and jump on this one just as a working artist, but also a working artist. Like my art is my life. I do graphic design, so for businesses, but that's not really the creative aspect of art. That's more of pay the bills art to me. But then like on the creative side, I do freelance work and I work with people. To do all kinds of projects. And as far as like pandemic goes for me, it's funny. I've actually gotten more commissions pandemic, which has been interesting because like I actually eased up on trying to seek out commissions, and I was just trying to focus on work. And then me and my better half Brittany, we got a big commission. This was right before pandemic, but it was a children's book that we're working on, which is pretty cool. But then even in that process, I had multiple people contact me from way back whenever, asking about like, hey, do you still do commissions? Do you still do this stuff? So I don't know, pandemic in a weird way has gotten me more work. I think people are just sitting home thinking, man, I'd really like a cool picture or something, So it's been strange for me having that. I don't know. I don't want to take the whole time because save some for when we talk.
I was like, I'm not that creative, or I don't even have a creative job. If you want to call it creative,
Larry,
I get creative.
You've been trying to launch a creative career, right?
No, not currently, not right now. There's so much crap I have on my plate. Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. Yeah.
No, but tell us about that. I mean, the episode is about our challenges in trying to do this, and you're in that position where you're trying to get started, and maybe you have some thoughts that you want to share with people that might relate to.
Well, see, that's the thing, because right now I'm not really trying that hard, because I'm just trying to concentrate on getting my sanity back to ground zero, because we all have our jobs. It's very hard. It's a killer, because if you're like me and you work a day job in the world and the best solutions to problems you may have had come up with your craft, and then you work your full day, get home, you're just like, maybe I'll work on it a little later, or maybe I'll just do it tomorrow. And so you find yourself in that catch-22 where nothing has gotten done because you're not really doing anything, and then you're slightly sad because you're like, well, nothing's getting done. But at the same time, I don't know, you either reach that make or break point where you accept it, or you realize that you're not happy with it and you move forward, figure a way to make it work.
I was gonna ask, is that because I think I experienced something similar earlier on when I got back from deployment, and for me it was like I got into like a stupid like depression. That's where I eased up on my art stuff. But it was more about finding work-life balance. Like you say, you're trying to work a full-time job, and then you're also trying to have a life, and then you want to be creative.
I don't have a life at all. Don't have a life.
Well, fair enough.
Foolish human.
Yeah, no, I mean, but like, you say you don't have a life, but is it because you're like work?
I think it's just for a simple fact that you're just tired. Well, we could get into a string of like a whole Dr. Phil on why I'm not doing what I need to be doing. But I would just say, honestly, it's just the climate itself. Climate, i.e. the world right now, it's just bleh. It's just blase fair. And, I don't know. I feel like I'm saving up my energy for when we're free to do things out and about. Because it's just like, I don't know, it's winter right now, everybody's freezing their ass off. I feel like when it hits spring and people are like, oh my god, I can go outside in shorts. Oh, I can just stand there. I don't have to be near anybody, but I can just, that's nice. I could leave a window open. I think it's kind of like a seasonal kind of thing. Like, I won't say seasonal depression, but it's kind of like a seasonal thing where you're just like, this weather, this season, climate, it's just, it wears you out for me.
Makes sense.
I think there's some people that can relate to that.
And and that's the thing, is I have not lost sight that I still love doing my crafts. Still love it. I still think of ideas all the time on, I should do this, this process, I could do this. What if I try doing this next time? I can fix this. I know how to do this right. So, I mean, honestly, in the stage that you're not able to actually do something, this this is the perfect time to kind of plan on what you want to do and game plan out, okay, well, if I want to start getting into this one, better to start doing more research maybe, kind of brush up on my information that I need, my knowledge, to have figured out ways to do it, kind of reach out, make a support group in that manner, so you have people who are like, oh, hey, man, I thought about your idea. Maybe we should try this, and it's like, oh, great, thank you. So in this time, if you're not able to actually do your craft or do your artwork, give yourself time to rest and relax and get all in and just be yourself. Try to survive. Just try to survive until you can have the craft back in your hand and you're like, I got it, bitches. I got it. Just give yourself time.
Survival is a really good theme.
I know, I've got the survival beard on, Ben. See? Look, I got it going.
You look like you just came off of like a deserted island. Do you have your Wilson with you? Do you have your own personal Wilson?
Yeah, he's right here. Like, show me Hulu. Show me Hulu. I want to catch up with my shows. I want to catch up with my shows.
I was going to recount my experience with whole last year when it came around like March 2020 and the pandemic really down. You guys know this. I used to do convention like all the time, and that was I'm a leather crafter, and we would take our stuff and go to a Comic-Con, set up a booth, and then sell whatever stock. When the pandemic hit, every single convention said we're going to postpone. Some of them even canceled.
Which was smart.
It just didn't feel, and so there was I had this huge fear over, my entire business was built on this thing that's just gone, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I had an Etsy store, but I had no idea if it could sustain the same kind of sales and the same kind of income that the Comic-Cons did, because I work for a university. Summer months, they don't pay me. So here it is, March, and I'm only going to get paid 3 more times when May ends away. And the whole summer was supposed to be full of convention. And similar to Rodney's experience, with just a little bit of patience and time, just out of nowhere, it seems, from home more. And e-commerce went through the roof. And the fact that I just had an Etsy store saved us, bloated out of nowhere.
Is that fair to say that you didn't do anything? Because I feel like you were putting the information out there. Like I had everything posting live. Well, no, but you were posting live videos where you were doing your craft and sharing your information.
That wasn't until June, man. So between March and June, that didn't happen. So like between March and June, everything on the Etsy store started like it was. I can actually go back to the statistics and see it. As soon as it hit right about mid-April, all of a sudden we went from like 5 orders a week to 20 orders, and it happened out of nowhere. And actually doing the live streams in the summer is what kept me sane, and what drove that was, hey, I'm doing all these sales and stuff, chase this and grow this people's attention on this. And I can definitely tell more of that story later, but fear and like, oh my god, am I going to survive? Hey, because e-commerce just out of nowhere just blew up. I think now is a great time to bring on our guest Mario and see what kinds of things he's been through, kind of advice he has for budding artists in this ever-changing atmosphere. We will be right back from this break. And welcome back from our break. We have our guest here, Mario, the Artisan Rogue. Hi, Mario. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you guys?
We're doing well.
We just finished talking about some of the challenges that we faced, or some of the fears that we experienced, in how that shifted our thinking in our freelancing work, our creative work, or even just trying to be creative for the fun of it. And we shared some of our own stories, and so we were wondering, like, could you give us sort of a bit of a timeline? Like, what do you do as a freelancer? Kind of where did you come from? How did the pandemic really change that for you, or did it at all?
The pandemic really didn't change a whole bunch. I've been a contract player. I've been a freelancer for so long that, in most circumstances, this is kind of long in the tooth, but essentially from my own experience, not only the company I currently contract for, but other ones that I've done work for, their infrastructures are always shrinking. They're always downsizing. They're always cutting people and that sort of thing. So this wasn't anything new to me. And it was fine. The only thing that started happening, though, was there seems to be an influx of more people out there doing more work, more availability. And that's become a little bit problematic, because now where I was the guy, this is the guy that he's pretty flexible. He can do things whenever, even like 10 o'clock at night or whatever. But now all of a sudden I've got 5 or 6 other people in the same zone, that are competing. And when companies keep hemorrhaging employees, like Hallmark in March let go of 412 people. Of the 412 people, 237 of them were creative. Does a huge hit on the Kansas City freelance community. So when you're dealing with numbers like that, and I can actually say that, I mean, I work for them contractually, but I used to be full-time, and I still remember the day I got let go and how all that went down. And they rolled it out that way in an effort to try and keep it out of the Kansas City Star, try and keep it under the weather or under the radar. But in general, I don't think it's changed for me a lot. I think that it's just made it more challenging to get noticed, for people to even know that I'm out there. And I hate it because I end up sounding like a freaking vacuum cleaner salesman, like a walking resume. I can't even say hello. I'm like, hey, how are you doing? Yeah, nice to meet you. By the way, did you know I'm available? And it sounds like I'm either really super creepy and desperate, or I'm just really broke. It's one of the two. And it never leads to good conversation. I get hit on by a lot of old women. It's just awkward. So, okay, so maybe that's what's changed.
More old women in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm on fleek with that. Yeah.
Old ladies need.
So that's what's changed, Ben.
Ladies need love too. That's all I'm gonna say. Mm-hmm. Grandmothers need to get the chimney swept every now and then too.
I about had my own chimney swept a long time ago by an old woman. So yeah. It was at my sister's wedding, and she had way too much to drink, and she was like, "Ooh, yeah." She kept calling me Fabio, which was really strange. And I was like, "Oh no."
I mean, you got the hair for it, man.
Yeah, but I could dig that if it was somebody younger. When you remember biblical moments from real life experiences, and you're grinding on my leg, everything downstairs shuts down.
Yeah. Or
there's no wood in the forest.
Or when her husband's sitting right next to her, going, "Oh." It's just like,
yeah, except.
Or even worse, he's going, yeah.
That would be super creep. Yeah.
This is good for all of us here.
That doesn't work for you guys? That doesn't work for you guys? It's good for me. It's not good for you?
No. He's like, look me in the eyes. I gotta finish.
Actually, it'd be far more funny if he said nothing, but he just looked at you, winked, and started to unbutton his shirt, and there's like a Superman logo underneath.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then he pulls down his pants and there's Superman underwear on. Like,
I was gonna say, he's gonna get real mad when I take off my shirt and it says Batman. I'm gonna have a tattoo.
Are you here for Martha? I am.
But I was gonna say, it's cool though, because he's gonna get mad, but then I'm gonna take off my shirt and he's gonna see my Martha tattoo, and he's gonna be like, oh, it's fine.
He's like, you don't know how bad I needed this right now.
But then the entrepreneur inside of us goes, oh, I see you're a comic fan. I do illustrations.
So I could illustrate this whole concept for you. I'm just
totally turns around. It's like, yeah.
And that's the really weird commission requests.
Oh God, yeah, right.
You're an artist. I have to ask.
Yeah.
Because I've been to conventions, and like when I go to cons, I do we'll do like the little commission where it's like, hey, come draw something.
Yeah.
Or like, will you draw something for me?
Right.
What is your weirdest quick commission that you've ever got? Like, as a creative, and this will be fun to see if Ben has one, or like just as a creative, this is a kind of everybody. What's the weirdest thing you've ever had someone ask you to do, and they were going to pay you for it?
Okay, this is legit. So I don't know if that show's even still going, but in Wichita, there used to be this anime fest, some kind.
Okay.
And there was a guy. I was sitting at my table. Now the way they did it was, we'll set you up in the hallway so you'll get extra sales as people walk by to the bathroom. And that's a terrible marketing angle. And there was right, but you see people like going back and forth. And I remember the guy that ran it, like his name was Pixie something or other. I don't even remember what his name was now, but he kept walking around telling everyone, hey, there's going to be a lot of people flowing through here. We got a very eclectic mix of people. There was one guy that I saw him from a distance, and I was like, I normally don't care. I will talk to anybody. I have no druthers about it. But this giant pink furry crocodile kept walking back up and down the aisle. But he had a leash that was leading to another guy that was just dressed in gimp wear, hopping like a frog behind him. They passed my booth no less than 5 times. And each time he kept looking over. And I thought, please don't come over. Just don't. But he did. And he finally came over. But, there's something that I do miss at the same time that I'm horrified about it with shows. You get the silent watcher, and it's bad enough when they come over and they kind of loom like somebody out of the WCW just looking at you.
And then look at you.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you look at them, they scurry away into the shadows.
Yeah.
And this guy, but see, I couldn't see his face. It's just this giant cardboard-laden, fur-covered crocodile head looking down at me. And he stood there long enough that I could pick up on the rhythm of his breathing. And I was like, how's it going? And I think he said fine, but it was so muffled and so weird that all I could think was, is this going to end with me missing a kidney and asleep in a bathtub? That was all I kept thinking. Because I was like, I've seen this movie. And so after a while, he walks away and the guy hops behind him. I'm like, this is getting fucking weird. And he comes back finally, but now he's got, and I shit you not, a purple trapper keeper. Okay. Now I was more mesmerized and I was like, someday I must draw this man. He had a purple trapper keeper, and in it, he first comes over and he says, I want you to do me a favor. And I was like, oh God. And he said, I have my portfolio with me. Would you mind looking at it? And I was like, sure. And so he opens it up. Now, by this time, he's also instructing his little gimp to sit and everything else like that. The guy's acting like a cat or a dog or something. It's very odd. But as I'm flipping through it, he's telling me, I would really like to hire you for a commission. I have a dream illustration, but I want you to look at my work and see what you think of it, and then pick your favorite one and redo it for me. I was like, all right. Okay. I open it up. And I don't ever remember this particular pose that Megatron and Optimus Prime did. I don't remember this from the cartoon at all, but it did involve a lot more crotch connection than I remember. And in so saying, I flipped through it, and most of the pages that weren't stuck together, managed to get through, were all Transformers in the most bizarre hydraulic fluid covered action I've ever seen in my life. And the entire time, I didn't realize he had lowered his head closer and closer to me, where there's this big pink snout right here next to my head as I'm flipping, and he's breathing heavy the entire time. And I thought, I don't know if you're like hot. I don't know if you're like getting off on this.
Oh, he's
but
hot.
Finally, yeah, I get through the whole thing. And he finally stands up and everything. He says, so what do you think? I'm like, it's interesting. And he's like, well, I really was wondering if you could draw me Megatron with a vagina. And there was something about that. And I think I offended him because I didn't stop laughing for about 5 minutes. Dude, it broke me. I was like, in no fucking way in my life, in my art career, would I ever think that a giant pink crocodile was going to ask me to draw Megatron with a vagina. That isn't even a real thing. That can't be. And it just happened to me. And he was like, what? He's hot. I'm like, you know what? Let's just stop. I was like, I was really nice to the guy. I was like, dude, I'm sorry, man. I just can't. That's part of my childhood. I finally understand what it means when somebody like rapes your childhood. I totally get it now. And I was like, I no offense, dude, but I sincerely can't do it or anything. He's like, okay, I can understand that. Not everyone gets it, but Megatron is hot. And I'm like, yeah, we've established this. We can move on now. And he went on. But he finally got some other girl down the way to draw it for him. But the entire time he had to art direct right in front of her. I felt so horrible for her because sales were so bad that weekend that it didn't matter if somebody came along and was like, well, you punch yourself in the face for $5. I'm pretty sure any one of us would have done that. And it was to the point where even I was like, maybe I'm the bad guy. Maybe a vagina on Megatron isn't that bad. Like when you have a show that shitty and your own morality just goes, fuck, I don't know. But yeah.
I think you narrowly avoided the whole like art directing in front of you thing, because I feel like that would be a bit of an annoyance for an artist if they were just hovering over you going, no, not like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So hold on. First, I have a different comment, but I have to note the story you just told sounds like one of those AI generated stories where you like feed an AI a bunch of data and it's just tell me a story.
At Optimus Prime. and Optimus rolled out.
No, I'm talking about his whole. I'm talking about his whole scenario.
Yeah.
This crocodile with the gimp comes up to me asking, like, that sounds like an AI generated story. But I just wanted to note that. And then on the other side, the taking of the commission, the action of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's fun to see where people are, because if somebody would have brought that to me, I would have drawn it in a heartbeat. I'd be like, yeah, man, I can't wait to try to draw this, because it sounds effing crazy. Like, just to see if I could do it. Like,
Right.
like, I don't know how the anatomy of that works. how do I give a robot? Right. Is it an exhaust port?
I know, right?
Is it
Gave him
a
unleaded.
grill? Is it like, what
Right.
part does it go? Like,
Well, and see, okay, even to that detail, I talked to a lady after the show when we were all shutting down. I walked over, I'm like, so I saw you took that commission. And she was like, excuse me? I was like, the Megatron with the vagina. She's like, oh God. And just her visible shudder. And I was like, was it that bad? And she was like, I was okay until he kept using the word moist too many times. And I was like, say no more, fam. I'm good. That's all right.
oh man.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would have been worth it for you, Mario.
No. That's probably the weirdest one. I've gotten some other oddball ones, but that's the weirdest one by far.
I don't get weird requests.
No.
I've been on Etsy for a number of years now, and I have not had the weird ones find me yet.
You
I'm
know
about
what?
to make a fake account. just so I can give you.
I get people requesting references to really really rare and like unknown TV shows, like just shit I don't know, and that I have to kind of research a little bit. And
Sure.
Usually falls on like anime, because there's such a huge
Oh God, yeah,
wealth of
right.
anime out there that it's not possible for me to know all of it. And so they'll be like, hey, can you like etch something from anime that I could not pronounce, and I'm just like, yeah, man, just show me some pictures of it, and I'll see what I can do. And it's never the weird stuff. It's always like, a cool looking sword or something like that.
Sure.
Like, I don't know if it's just like my stuff is so vanilla that that the
Your
weirdos don't
white
seek me
bread.
out because none of it already looks weird. Or what?
You never know. I mean, I think it just depends on the time and the place, honestly, because I've seen other people that have gotten some weird ones. It was the very first time I was ever made aware that there's an anime cow obsession.
Oh yeah, it's a thing.
I didn't
It's
know
a
that.
thing.
Yeah. And,
Yeah, it's kind of hot.
right. Well, it
I'm
was
just
like,
kidding.
I was like, yeah, right. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Hot milk.
But it was like a year ago that it was at NakaCon. There was a girl next to me that was dressed up as a cow. I'm like, I don't even want to know what that anime is. But she was going around asking people for like different commissions based on cows. And I was like, this is a thing. And when she finally came by my table, I was like, so I got to ask, because I'm kind of the outlier here. Like, what is this all about? And she was like, well, no, I guess there's an expo in Chicago, and it's about 1,000, 2,000 fans of cow anime. And I did not fucking know that. That's the weirdest. No, it's not the weirdest thing. It is not the weirdest thing, but it is an extremely unusual thing,
I mean, is it though? Big Mama Milkers, milking. Like, there's a lot that involves, like,
I know.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's weird, but like, I get it over all the other things. So my weirdest commission I ever got, this is the one I don't get. I don't understand this one at all. I get the milking stuff.
Sure.
I don't get, this kid comes up to my table and he's like doing the little shy thing, and I have a thing that says I'll draw whatever commissions, and he's like, hey, so you do commissions? And I'm like, yeah, man, whatever you want. So you'll draw like anything? And I'm like, yeah, I'll draw anything. I don't care. Just give it to me. What do you want? He's like, are you sure? I don't really want to offend or bother. I'm like, dude,
Oh,
I
God.
will draw whatever you want as long as you pay. I don't care. It's between me and you. Nobody even has to know. So
I have no morals.
zero. Like, when it comes to art, because here's my thing. I do have
Suck it.
limits.
Whatever you want, just $5, right? Hand in hand.
$20 is $20, okay? But no, it wasn't even that crazy, but it was weird. He wanted like, I think it was fairy tale. I don't remember the thing, but he wanted a character from an anime, female type, but he wanted her huge, like giant, like Titan size, and then he wanted the main character man to be ripped in half. And like she was eating him.
Yep.
And I'm just like, okay, like it wasn't even that weird to me because Titans
Probably an inside joke, I guess.
No, it was like a combination of Attack on Titans in this other anime. Like that's what he was doing. But like, I could tell the reason he wanted it was because it was cool. Let's put it that way.
He wanted it because he was into vor.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah.
I don't get that. I mean, I'll draw it. It's cool. Whatever. You do you. I don't understand that geek.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think I can kind of understand it because, like, I'm not going to lie, when that new Resident Evil vampire lady came out.
Oh, she's hot.
That's ridiculous, man. I was like right there for it. I didn't even post anything on Twitter. I just scrolled through the hashtag. I'm like, yeah, I'm down with it.
Yup.
It's good. It's good action.
Yep.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But she's hot. Like it's not
right.
Like she's just she's a really tall, hot woman that might murder you. It's hot.
Yeah.
And she's a
Have you
vampire,
ever touched
and, like,
wet paint and then just like let your fingers pull down through it and you see that kind of indentation? Pretty sure that's exactly what it would be like. You'd be like, let me touch them. Oh. Harder, mommy. What?
Oh my god.
You're penetrating me. There you go.
Wow.
I really want to see people's reactions during that entire conversation. Like, what the hell? Where's this going?
I don't understand. Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
Larry, have you ever had somebody make a weird request of you?
And that's the thing. Not even acting that I can think of. I don't think I've had anybody do anything really weird. No, I take that. No? Well, that was kind of weird. I had my vape, and Dustin was like, hey, man, this would be really cool for the shot. Can you lay down on the ground and get, like, right underneath the camera, and then just puff a big cloud underneath? And I was like, okay. Can you do it faster?
That's called practical.
Yeah, again.
Those are practical effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like,
Oh man.
I would have gotten a
because
weird
I just
request
thought
from
it was going to be like,
somebody,
oh,
'cause
this is
I want one of these
funny.
stories.
And he was like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do it again. Blow for me, Larry. Blow for me.
As long as
Faster.
as it didn't cross over into him like playing with his belly button, you're fine. That's when it would have gotten awkward. They were like, oh,
Get in there nice and
what are you
deep, black
doing?
boy. Nice and deep. Just sits there with a dog behind me, and he's like, good, very good. You're so pretty when you do that. What? Nothing?
Yes, very nice.
You're on point. I mean, you're on point.
You're gonna be
I'm actually kind of surprised that I'm a leather crafter and have not yet been asked to make some leather
make a couple leather masks spin, and then there you go. It'll come in.
Just
is that
or like a
gateway
gag.
thing? Like,
Do
if I
like a
make-
gag.
So I have to make that one thing, and then suddenly people are like, oh, he makes that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
Exactly.
You know,
or you could make like the little thing with the leather straps and like the metal ring in the middle that goes on the chest. Make one of those. Yeah. Yeah.
See,
If
here's the
men-
thing, like, I would totally be fine making that stuff if somebody asked me to. The only thing that I ever get is, could you make me like a $300 set of armor from like this one show? And I'm like, man, that's gonna take so fucking long to put together. Like, I guess, you know, if somebody was like, can you like make me a whip so I can like beat the shit out of my partner? I'd be like, all right, like Superman themed or Batman themed. What are we going for?
Like, do you want me to laser etch it?
It wouldn't bother me.
I want you to laser etch the word shame across the handle.
I'm gonna put yes, daddy on each strand, so it leaves
I
an
would do it.
imprint backwards.
I know I did recommend you one time, Ben. I did recommend you one time at a show because there was a couple that came by. It was these two ladies, and they were clearly into S&M, and just the way they were dressed up and everything. I'm like, this goes beyond cosplay. This is a whole nother thing. And then I found out they weren't in cosplay. They were just out. And then when they were talking, they were like, well, and I overheard them. I was like, well, my buddy Ben, he's over. His booth is back here. He does a lot of leather work. And they were like really intrigued. They came back later though, and evidently Kristen scared the shit out of them because they went over there and they're like, whoa. And what was really fun, I was like, well, she's a really nice person. They were like, no, like she's really intense. Like her look, like we like it took them a couple times, like walking around to like want to approach her. Like, my God, like they were like in a good way. Like they were really stunned by how she looked at the show.
Did she have the big goblin hair looking?
Everything, yeah, that was the whole thing. So yeah.
Yeah, for those that aren't familiar, my wife Kristen has a very unique look. Whenever we would do Comic-Con.
You can say hot, Ben. You can say hot. Your wife's hot.
She would argue that point, but yeah.
She would go, "Shut up, Rodney."
I know, and that's why I'm saying it.
She'd be more like, "Fuck you, Rodney."
Yep.
She can have a very intense look, and it can surprise. She's always very surprised when people are like, "Oh, that was really intimidating," and she's like, "What?"
Yeah.
Oh man, we really got off topic.
Yeah, we did.
Totally.
What topic? What is topic?
What I was talking to them earlier is they were asking about creativity and me and my kind of stuff, and I was like, you know what? Honestly, right now, I'm fine. I'm not being creative. I'm not really doing anything. I'm just kind of in this nice get myself back into homeostasis mode where I'm allowing myself to plan. I'll sit there and plan what I want to do and how I want to do it.
Sure.
It's just, giving yourself time. So it's like, was there ever a point within this past year or so that you just kind of gave yourself time to go, hey, you know what? I'm going to take like a week. I'm going to take a day, an hour, time off, and just there and not.
Yeah, it's erratic when it happens because there's this thing I truly believe exists called creator's guilt. Mm-hmm. And when you do it, or when you go through it, some of it is involved because, you go out on social media and you're like, well, who's this fucker posting a painting a day? Or who's this bastard like knocking it out of the ballpark every single 30 minutes, And you're like, you can't possibly be shitting out that much content. Somebody is like fucking with me. But because when you see that sort of stuff, you're thinking to yourself like, well, why the fuck am I sitting here Netflixing eating Cheetos? Like, let me go do something. But there has to be that reset point because I'm not that person, I'm very much the kind of person that's like, I have these bursts of creativity where I'll go out, do something, or, well, here's a really good example. I have to normally rest after I'll do like a lot of work. If not, it just kills me. I don't think anybody can be that prolific that long. So yeah, I do end up, whether it's accidental or on purpose, there'll be days where I don't do anything. Or maybe like, as weird as this is, I have a weird set of OCD, do something dumb like reorganize these markers in front of me. Like anything to remove myself from something that's creative because I just can't push into that zone anymore,
Yeah.
And you and I actually share a common ground in voiceover and in acting. I know that years ago, I'll never forget, like, always get a high when I do any kind of performance.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if this happens to you, but do you ever get, right after it's done, do you ever get that, it's out, and I just want to go and lay underground?
Oh yes, it's a release. It's kind of like
right.
You've built that tension up because you're trying to build a character. Or, you're trying to stay in the zone, trying to stay focused. And so yeah, that's a lot of mental fortitude to sit there and block out news, cool things that you got planned, the weather.
Yeah.
You're just like, I have to stay focused. At the same time, it's almost a reward for yourself. You're just like
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's kind of a cathartic thing. You're just like releasing just
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no.
Well, and I think
I've
too,
been there many times.
See, I think too, the other thing is that like with that cathartic release, it's really good because it's almost like a reward that's, intangible, but it's there and it allows you to refuel yourself. But I have a good buddy. I won't say his name, but that man is like literally on 24/7. Like it doesn't matter what he's doing. He's like, gotta promote, gotta film, gotta do this. And we had I mean, we're really good friends. We had a pretty heated discussion about scheduling, which is like the big dirty word for any creator,
Oh, yeah.
And it really is. And there's a life coach that I listen to her stuff every once in a while. And this was the scariest shit I've ever done. I'm not even joking. Sit down and think through a fucking week. Try and plan out everything you'd like to do, and then absorb the fact that you probably won't get half of it done because you've got so much other shit built up within you that refuses to let that happen. Unfortunately, mine is closer to 90% is not going to get done because with a pandemic, with staying home, with limitations, with the lack of interaction with other creatives, it kills you. It really drives this nail into your creative crucible, and just now it's leaking out everywhere. And sometimes that's why I alluded earlier to the fact that if it's forced, that's what happens. There's some days when it's like, well, I just basically shit this day away. So,
Some days you accidentally draw a Megatron vagina, You're just like, there.
It's a good day.
Moister.
Well, okay.
Moister.
I have to comment on this because I feel like one of the dangers of being creative is this. This happens. A lot of creatives get in the mentality of that schedules and timing things down are scary. And I used to watch a couple different art podcasts, but on one of them, listen, YouTube, whatever. They talk about that, and one of the solutions that they offer, rather than just saying it's a problem, some of the things about scheduling as a creative is we get this mentality that if we force it, then it's not creative. And then we try to create these environments for creative nature. And what's actually more effective with like how humans are is instead of telling yourself you have to do and you have to be creative, sometimes it helps people to do the opposite. You give yourself a window of time and you tell yourself you can't create in this 2 hours of the day. You cannot do it. Don't touch it. Or like with writers and other people, they tell them like if you're a writer or you're trying to do like an illustration or a concept, instead of feeding off the creative energy when you have it, you set a limit on your creative energy. So like say you have a great idea, like you're like, oh, I'm gonna write the story, it's all up here. You go, I'm only gonna write 2 pages, and I don't care where I'm at, I'm stopping at 2 pages. And it doesn't matter if you have the best idea in the world and you want it and you want to put it down on that paper. You tell yourself you can't. You say no. 2 hours a day, that's when you get to do it. And then once you're done, you don't get to do it anymore. And what happens is, instead of convincing yourself that you need the creative energy to do stuff, you now have to fight yourself on expending it all. And what happens is it actually causes you mentally, once you get in that pattern, it causes you mentally to be exponentially more creative during the time that you have for it. Yeah. So I just wanted to like kind of impose that because I feel like artists sometimes get themselves caught up in their own mental states, and they have all these reasons to justify not creating or not being creative. And really, it's not about that they can't. It's they won't because they're using the wrong tools to do so.
No, you're right. I think a lot of artists are victims of their own hubris. I'll be the first one to admit, like, if I've got a big bucket of temerity, it's right in front of me. I mean, that's what I'm carrying with me. And there's plenty of times that I've woken up and I thought maybe if I wake up too late in the day and I'm like, well, I'm not going to do anything today. Well, I'm the one creating that void for myself. I'm the one knocking myself out. And likewise, it's interesting you brought up the whole thing about like the limitations of, self-limitations of time, because I wasn't really aware of that. I don't know if it was just from working in a corporate mindset for so many years, but there you just work until you're done and you just get it done. But when you're finally in charge of yourself, it's up to you to say, well, this is what I can do in this time. And honestly, the closest comparison I can make to that was every single time I ever recorded for a role doing voiceover, you didn't have a lot of prep time. You might get your copy or your script right before. And when you hit the microphone, you have to go 0 to 60 like that. And so you're in that zone and your whole session might only be that hour. You have to bring it there. It's not like, oh, I've got 8 hours to work on this or something. Especially as a non-union actor, you don't have that. But when you're even more succinctly, when you're your own creator and you're at home working on an illustration and you're trying to get these things done, I am completely guilty of, well, I got all day to do this. Now I'm losing money, Now I'm totally losing money. And the weird part is I'll be right in the middle of something. Something's frustrating me. It's like, this is a really good time to make handmade lasagna. I'll be right back. And then I go, that's horrible.
Yeah, it's a form of procrastination that most creatives do.
Yeah.
They try to justify not doing something by doing something else, and it's because we tell ourselves we have all the time in the world. You have to stop doing that.
They bargain.
And you have to say, I don't have time to do it.
Yeah.
And then also, real quick, I had a question. You said a word, and I didn't know what the word meant. Was it the temerity or something?
Yeah,
temerity. You said it very early. What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Temerity is basically your ego, your own self-aggrandizing self, you know?
Okay.
I think a lot of people, at least from what I understand, you know, a lot of people carry it forward. And I know that sometimes that's a good thing. You can carry it in front, and that's the public face you'll put out there. I've learned that over time. It's good to have that, but at the same time, you can be a victim of it, you know?
Scheduling thing. You know, I'm like half a creative, but also the other half of me is just a laborer. I'm for the university takes a little bit of creativity, but there was one time. Sorry, I'm starting this the wrong way because I had a different thought in my head. Let me try that again.
Take your time, man.
On the scheduling thing. And Mario, you know this about me, and I'm pretty sure Rodney and Larry will agree. I am one of those 24/7 on all the time people, and I have trouble turning it off because I'm just go. I'm getting better about it, and it took some evolution to figure out how I achieve a balance that allowed me to be creative when I needed to be, and allowed me to just absorb when I needed to absorb, and allowed me to just shut it off and be a laborer when I needed to. And you know, I used to just everything was just off the cuff. Everything was ad hoc. It was just in the moment. When does this need to happen? Okay, it's going to happen right now. And then I would just try to do things one at a time. It wasn't working for me. So I had this epiphany. I'm going to go into Google Calendar, and I'm going to create blocks of time throughout Google Calendar every week, especially during summer months when I don't have university. During this block of time, that's whenever I'm on Twitch. During this block of time, that's whenever I'm going to sit in front of the computer, get into Illustrator, and make new design. You know, during this block of time, that's when the laser is running, and I'm cutting and I'm etching things. And I laid all that out for a week. The first week, it just went because life happened. Yeah. And it was just like, no, I'm supposed to be doing this from noon until 3, but I can't because now I have to run this errand instead. And the errand is the priority. And I found myself getting really frustrated, and I started getting really angry. And I was like, I'm only getting angry because I made this up. I made up this whole idea of me having to stick to the schedule. So I had to reframe my thinking. And instead of becoming like a strict block schedule of build a routine, how my week goes. And so my routine is the start of the day is, okay, open up Etsy, see what's due when, and see priorities in my home life, and then establish my priorities at university or individual commission work. And once I establish those priorities, then I can work on things a little bit here and there, and I know about the time frame that that I want to have breakfast and that I want to have lunch, and around what happens for dinner, and I know how long those take. And then when it hits right about 11 o'clock at night, I'm like, everything's done. At 11 o'clock, there's no more work to happen. That is the one thing that I have scheduled for myself. And when Larry was talking about it, and you were talking about it, like, you know, those times where you just need to not do it and just absorb. I schedule myself that. All the other stuff, I can do all the work, and I can bounce back and forth and just kind of like, you know, figure out my priorities, schedule that time to rest. It doesn't happen. And so I have to force myself to sit down, turn on the Xbox, turn on Diablo 3, and just kill some fucking demons for an hour. and then I feel like my day has been good. Yeah.
You know,
it's like an allegory for killing my own inner demons. You know.
Yes.
Like.
Sometimes, though, you know, what you were saying brought. There's my dad is former military, and he works at the VFW and the Masonic Lodge he's with. There's a ton of older guys. They're old military guys. And we were helping a buddy of his move, and there was a guy he's an old Army guy, amazing dude. But he told me something when we were standing out back on his deck, and we had just gotten done moving some stuff and helping him out. And he was like, you know, I can't remember the last fucking time I appreciated my backyard. And I thought that was such an odd comment out of the blue. But he said, I know what you're thinking, but he said, I'm sorry, that's how I am. I talk out loud. And I say shit. And he's a really old gruff guy, but the gist of it was that he was saying he was realizing how much life just kind of flew by. Like, you know, he really hadn't looked at that backyard. He owned it. That was his fucking yard, but he'd never really done that. All the homes he'd ever had, he'd never enjoyed his back deck. He'd never taken the time to just watch his dogs run, or, you know, when his kids were young, watch them run around. He just never did. And I was right there for that moment when that upswell, that uptick of all that shit just hit the dude. He didn't get emotional, but you could tell all those gears were just moving in that 78-year-old head of his. I was like, oh, fuck, what a time to have that realization. I was grateful for it because I had that realization. I was like, okay, there's a lot of truth right here. I need to cash that check, you know? So... yeah, I don't think
cash it while you got time, man.
that's the whole thing, dude. Like, and that's not to be like depressing or anything. I think we're all guilty of that. I know that there was for fuck's sake, there was a point in time for
Fuck for
6
fuck's
years.
sake. Exactly.
Right, fuckity fuck. There was 6 years of my life where I worked 3 jobs.
Oh God.
I was working at Hallmark for 40 hours plus a week because I was salaried. So I think I averaged about 45 hours there. I would work from like 9 o'clock in the morning until about 5 or 6 in the afternoon, and then get off work, and I most of the time had freelance in the evenings, so then my evenings were ate up, you know, and all that other stuff. And then the weekend would come. Well, I was head of security downtown at one of the bars, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday from 7 p.m. until about 3 a.m. And I don't remember shit from that time, you know? If I hadn't journaled, I don't even know when the hell I managed to find time for that. It just seems like those years are gone. Like I just didn't do anything. And the worst part about it is that I don't know that I have much to show for it. You know, like that's a lot of time that I was like, why wasn't I creating more? Because I completely shit out a lot of stuff for other people, but I didn't do anything for myself. That's never fun. But,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that's something we all have to. We have to take time because you guys, you know, you're talking about these events and like this guy had this epiphany, and then you're talking about those years of your life that feel like they were nothing. It's one of those things where I think everybody has a different point in their life where they get there, where they're just going throughout their day to just try to live, and every day is just about like survival, and especially being Americans, we're capitalism. It's like make money, do something, make money, do something, make money, do something.
Very true.
Oh yeah, I have a life somewhere in there, and some people can do that for years. Other people do it throughout the week, and then it's like, oh, it's the weekend, I can enjoy life for 2 days. And I think we all get trapped in that a little bit, and it is a challenge to separate our work life, a balance between work life and creative, and then actual work. There's a popular, it's like a TikTok, but it's also a saying, and like I don't remember the full thing, but it's something like you need to have a hobby that makes you money, you need to have a hobby that makes you happy, you need to have a hobby that makes you creative, and a hobby that keeps you in shape. And it's like these things, and it's like
That's
it breaks
a fucking lot of hobbies. I'm tired already.
So the thing is the hobbies can cross over. Like the hobbies can cross over into each other. So like
hunt a man is what you're saying. Oh, I like it.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Hunting is both creative. It challenges you mentally. It might make you some money, and it's definitely going to keep you in shape.
Right.
Done.
Sing the Rainsford. Hello, my old friend.
But like, I mean, it does touch on a point. And I'll have to look up the actual thing because it touches on everything. It kind of covers that whole, it's in parallel, I guess, to like having like Maslow's hierarchy of needs and things like that, to just try to have a better life. And the challenge of all of this is finding that balance so that in 6 years, you don't feel like you just wasted away 6 years.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I guess for our audience or listeners, and maybe even for us, we just kind of sit on it for a while and think about it. Like, you can't force yourself to be amazing and great. You just have to try to aim to do a decent amount. You can't always be happy. You can't always be sad and depressed either. It's not productive. You have to look for a constant state of okay. And if you get to that constant state of okay, and you find those moments of happiness, and you allow for those moments of sadness, and you go through there, I think in 6 years, you won't look back on it and go, fuck, what did I do? You're going to look back on your 6 years and go, I had some good times, I had some bad times.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's what, I don't know, that's what life's about. Experience, have a good life, you know. Not good life, but have an okay life and have good moments, I guess.
Just have a life.
I don't know.
Contentment.
Right.
Yeah, contentment.
Contentment
and
is the goal.
You bring up a really good
Happiness
point.
should never be a goal.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
You do bring up a good point of writer.
I want it. I want happiness.
No, it's just,
Fuck you.
happiness is
me I
temporary,
can't have
man.
my
If you try to be
happiness.
happy all the time, then you're just
Yeah.
gonna be sad about it. But if you work towards
You know what,
contentment,
Ben?
you can actually-
Drugs will make me
Yeah.
happy. Drugs will make me all happy. That's why people have psychiatrists.
No joke, right? Yeah. Well, and like an author friend of mine actually told me that, she's like, I never look at any point in time in my life as having been a bad decision for the most part, because she's like, every single bit of that, if you can take it, she was like, because she and I share a lot of appreciation of the same stand-up comedians. And, Mitch Hedberg, people like that, drew from the pain they had, whenever they performed, and they could turn it around. They could turn it on its ear and say, this is the shit I went through. Isn't this funny? Because, looking back is, 2020, but they celebrate the fact that it's a little bit fuzzy when you're looking back. And that's something now that I've tried to start learning. I'm like, okay, I can definitely draw from my experiences and from what I went through. A good example of that is I never and this isn't against anyone that works in a corporate environment, but I know that is not where I'm going to get anything. I will never be able to work in another corporate environment because all the years I worked in it, nothing came of it. I got laid off at one point and then brought back contractually. So where was the reward in that? There wasn't. It was just what I pulled from it.
You're spending your life in a corporate environment. You're spending a lot of your life producing something for somebody else to make money. And it's soul sucking. It
is.
It offers you nothing, and that's not to say that someone can't do that, because you could work for a corporate environment, and if you have a creative hobby or outlets that are fulfilling those things, then corporate works for you. The reason it worked for so many people and for so long is because it can work. It's just for creatives and artistic people, sometimes it's not right.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's 100% true. Yeah.
So Mario, we've kind of touched on some really good advice that could be given to somebody that's asking how do I start out? It's 2021. How do I get started? Or things completely changed for me, and there's no more Comic-Cons, and so now I don't know what to do. And one of the pieces of advice that came up that really struck with me is take time to rest. What would you say is another tip or some other tips that you would give to somebody if they asked you, Mario, you're an artist, do this, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I get started? And it could be applicable to any creative, whatever you feel drawn to.
Okay, I can actually answer this pretty accurately right now. There's a guy that I spoke to just this past weekend. He's just fresh out of college, right? Just out, bright-eyed, willing to take on the world, and I envy him. At the same time, I'm scared shitless for him, because when he talked to me, he was like, well, I was preface it by saying that, he came to me asking, well, I want to be an illustrator. How do I get into this sort of thing? How do I do this sort of thing? And I kind of started it by saying, there's no one path. There just isn't. The days of any creative being able to say, I want to do exactly like this other guy did it, or this other person, whatever, is gone. And the best way I can put this is this. I stumbled into doing a lot of what I've done. A lot of it, I can tell them, work on your personality. Work on your interpersonal skills. Work on being reliable and trustworthy. You don't even have to be that fucking good. You just have to be good to work with. I have seen that work out for so many people. And it's crazy. And it really, when I was in school at what was called CMSU, now it's UCM.
Oh, yeah.
The instructors back then were like, if your portfolio is strong, if you do this, make sure you wear a suit to your first interview. I did not. I wore a jean jacket. And, I still got the job. The whole thing was that there's this whole mantra, this whole ideology that they sell you in school, get out in 4 years, do all this other stuff, go out there, take on the world. I would say to anybody getting out there now, it's changed from when I got out of school. Now you can do just about anything. It really is so open and so free that you can create a product line with little to no investment. You can take whatever artwork you have, and now the world is your audience. And you can also become a niche person in the creative world. If you want to tackle something obscure like, oh, I love this anime Food Wars, I just want to do shit on that. There's a market for that, and you can subsist off of that. You can also do obscure, bizarre shit like Homestuck. And that is one of the most strange things I've ever seen, but it works. And the fandom behind it is fucking weird, but passionate. I love it.
They're passionate. Yes. They're very passionate.
Yes. Well, and I say weird, that's the old in me coming out, them bastards are old and weird.
Yeah, they're weird fellas over there. Dad,
What's all this horn stuff? What is that? Is that Star Wars? Yeah, that's me. When I first saw,
I don't get it.
had to get my cane and shake it at him.
Let me get my walker.
Get away from my booth, you damn kids, and you're loitering.
But now, that's even another thing, changing along the way and going with that, because I have been able to accept a lot more stuff that I don't get. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to roll with it. I don't know why you have a television on your head, but I'm going to roll with that. I don't know what that is. The old me is like, oh, cool. You're trying to pay homage to maybe an Atari or something. And they're like, oh, God, this guy is so old, and like, but I embrace that now. I'm fine with it. And so when I tell anybody coming into the market this, I'm like, embrace a few things. Embrace what you love. Embrace what you create, and embrace it. And because here's the truth. No one else will give a shit about what you make unless you do. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn, It was the same thing too. Like, I lost out on an opportunity to work with some people because I thought, well, if I'm a little bit more, if I don't really speak my mind, if I just try and listen, and just hear what the project was about, they'll want to hire me and it'll all be good. But it was because I was too fucking quiet and I didn't say anything that I didn't get the job. I didn't put my 2 cents in. I didn't stand up for myself. And later I found out they were like, you're cool, but your whole vibe was that you just weren't that interested. And on the flip side too, which is another weird thing from friends of mine who work in HR say, it used to be where, and this is dating myself quite a bit, you would get a job and you would stay at this job, right? And then if you did transfer jobs, they would go, I see that you worked for Initech for a good 12 years. That's really good. Now they look at you and go, why were you at Initech for 12 years?
Yep.
And it's the weirdest thing because they don't care anymore. They're like, what? You're not aggressive. You're not trying to grow. You're not trying to do more things, So, right? It's horrible.
I like the old one.
I like it back when I could shake a man's hand and make a deal.
That's so true. That
I
is
want to
so
work
true.
for one company until my back breaks, and then pay me my pension.
My 401k.
Dude, that's even another thing too. Like the cognitive dissonance, and I tell a lot of people this: if you work contractually, chances are you're going to be brought into a company where people like, and this is totally true. When I was still working in Hallmark and in the actual place, I met a new guy they brought in, and he came to me and he was like, so how do I get one of these pension things these older guys are talking about? I'm like, you never will. That is a fucking myth. It doesn't exist. They're lying to you. Forget about it. And he like didn't know. He was like, wait, companies actually provided this? Because most companies now, they'll give you a 401k, that whole shit, right? But even that now is like, it's some effort in it. But the fact that a company would have offered a pension, and he was like, well, how long has this one dude been here? I'm like, he's been here 45 years. I mean, his desk hasn't moved since 1977. So and most people think I'm joking when I say that. There's a dude at Hallmark. I don't know if he's just like now a legacy product or something, but like his desk hasn't fucking moved. Like that carpet was in style at one point in time. It is now not, and it hasn't been for a few decades.
They just didn't have the heart to tell him he has to leave. They just kind of like, we leave the light on for him, and we let him
just give him stuff.
Color with his crowns, but
right?
He doesn't really work for us. We don't pay him. That's his social security.
Yeah.
Where's my stapler? Have you guys seen my stapler? I put it on my desk and it's not there anymore.
My carpet one more time, I would burn this place down.
Oh man.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my advice to them would just be, explore every avenue, because even then I remember a few years ago, everyone made a big deal, and my parents, anybody of that boomer generation is this way, like, just go to school and you'll do fine. I'm like, that's a fucking lie.
Or anymore that you have to have a degree, technically, because a lot of people move up without degrees, and you're like, wait, what? You're an idiot. How?
On the reverse end, there's a bunch of people with degrees that are idiots.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I know people with bachelors
and not
masters
using them. Haha.
who are dumb. They're dumb.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah. Straight up, this is real talk. I'm gonna tell you guys a story that happened to me. This is some serious shit. Now, maybe you guys can commiserate with me on this. I feel totally justified because this is a real thing that happened. So back in October, in the ornaments department, there was an opening for a full-time guy sculpting, okay, and all this other shit, digital sculpting. So I was like, okay, I'm going to throw myself in that. What happened was that I put in for it. I actually talked to the creative director, and we had a great talk, and she's like, no, she's like, I think you'd be a really good fit, but I don't do the hiring. I was like, but you're the creative director. She's like, yeah, no, that's the accountant. That's who does the hiring. And I said, accountant? And she's like, yeah, because, we're really budget minded. And so that's who actually hires in for my department. So I was like, so you don't even get a voice in who works in your department. And she's like, no. But she's like, I'm just giving you that heads up because chances are you probably won't get the job based on that. Even if I thought you were good, there's a few other really talented people that have been here for a long time that are trying for it as well, too. I was like, okay, that's fine. And I lived with that. I made peace, and some months went by, and then after COVID hit, we couldn't go in, so everyone's working from home. I had an issue with one of my laptops. I had to take it in. And there was a guy that worked there who had been in creative. Now he worked in IT. And when I was talking to him, so we just, you work at a place, you start swapping stories, just bullshitting and whatever. And I'll never forget that, I'd known him for a while. And when I walked in there, we were talking about the computer and what was wrong. And he was like, oh, man, he was like, this has been one hell of a week, man. And I was like, why? And he goes, oh, sometimes the stuff that I get asked by the creative directors is just so stupid. I was like, what kind of shenanigans did you go through? He goes, can you believe, man, they hired this one lady, came in, and they hired her for the ornament position. And I was like, and that immediately perked my ears. And I was like, okay. And so he's like, so she comes in, but first of all, they call me and they say, hey, we need her to be kind of caught up. So we're going to schedule 30 minutes with her, with you, so that way you can kind of help her out on some of her skills. I was like, oh, okay. What she did was she came in, brought her laptop, and said, I'm here to learn the Adobe Creative Suite.
What?
In 30 minutes.
Oh my God.
So he said,
and she was already hired.
Yeah, she was hired.
I want to throw some. Ugh.
This is so fucked up because, and this is 100% true, she was an accountant. She was in the same accounting group that the other accountant was that did the hiring for ornaments. And that's why she got the job. They passed over myself and 4 or 5 other creatives that I know of.
That had the necessary skills.
Yeah. She didn't even know how to open shit. And that's why, I tell most people that are coming into this, I was like, it is not about your skill set. It is about who you know. And how well you scratch somebody else's back.
It's about who you know,
or their front.
I was about to reinforce that because the job that I got at the university has nothing to do with what I can do.
Yeah.
It had to do with the people that I knew. Because one of my best friends, his dad worked in the department, who knew the other professor who was looking for an adjunct to teach intro lab, which was basically just woodworking. And he landed me an interview because a friend knew that I built shit just for fun. And he's like, yeah, you should talk to this guy about being an adjunct. It didn't matter if I knew how to educate. It was just, he knows how to build shit with wood, so you should talk to him. And I went in for the interview, and then they were like, yeah, we totally want, I'm going to hire you. You're my adjunct.
He knows how to handle the wood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do.
Yeah.
And it was weird because the end of the interview was not just, okay, yeah, you're going to be the adjunct. At the end of the interview, this professor says, yeah, and I'm going to retire this fall, so I'm looking for somebody to replace me to teach the whole thing.
Holy
and I was
shit.
like, is he talking just metaphorically? Like he's not talking to me. I had a 10-minute conversation with this person, and he's like, no, I want you. I want you to do this. I want you to take all this over. And I'm like, you just met me.
Wow.
Here are the keys to the kingdom, son. Do me proud.
Right. It's like the beginning of a Zelda game.
Yeah, but because my friend would go and visit this professor every once in a while and just hang out in the lab and talk about building stuff and whatever. And so, so just based on the one person that I knew that vouched for me to this professor just trusted me over the course completely. And it had nothing to do with whether or not I really had the skills to pass on. It was
you just walked in the door and he's like, here you go, boss.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty much. It's crazy just how much it is who you know and not what you know. That happens to me in the Comic-Con world too.
Yeah.
The fact that I got to know people that run shows is why I get into the shows that I get into. and are successful at.
Well, and the Comic-Con world, too, is an extremely close-knit one. If you fuck up at one show, like, that travels, man. And that's a blessing and a curse. A blessing on one side because you kind of know things about people and you go, okay, this is somebody I don't want to have a booth next to or I don't want to interact with or invite to my show. But it can also be a curse in the fact that, like, you do something wrong and depending on who said what, now you're suddenly a victim of bad hearsay, which I've also seen happen.
That's something, as someone who runs a convention,
right.
I see it a lot, and I've tried very hard to not feed into it too much because I've had people message me, like send me a message about someone over in somewhere else that had a table or did something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you shouldn't have this person. You shouldn't this. And I've always, when I even started my convention years ago, my mentality was everybody together. I'm not gonna try to fight people. I don't want to compete with anyone. I want the community to come together because I believe in the community. I like the nerd community. And as the years have gone on, I've seen the effects of that, and it is very hard to not feed into that a little bit.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point, I know I've made some people mad because, like, people get in these systems where, like, with conventions, they get to a point where it's like, we always have the same guest, or we always have these people.
Oh, yeah.
And there would be years, and I won't say names or anything, but there would be years of guests where I wouldn't book a person as a guest. Sometimes because I was trying to get new people. Other time, like I had to go on a deployment once, just different stuff. I wouldn't book the same people, and I've gotten some nasty letters from guests. And like they would play it off as if it was like, well, they would say something really mean, and I would go, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like, that's not how I work. You don't try to mix my words. And then they would give me nasty, and then they would be like, oh no, I'm just kidding or joking. And it's like, no, you were being a dick.
Yeah.
You get caught up in that community and that who you know what you know kind of thing. And some people, it's advantageous, but it's also a detriment, like you were saying. And I try to avoid that with my circles of people. As far as the negative, I hate putting negative energy out there about other people, unless there's something like really negative. Like, I know there's people in the convention circle. There was a guy who was sexually harassing a lot of females. And it got to my table with enough evidence where I was like, yep, he cannot be here. But yeah, in a general sense, there's a lot of gossip and BS that it's a mess.
Hey, Rodney, when's the con this year?
It is June, Father's Day weekend. I got to look up the exact dates because I don't have them memorized. Hold on. But it's always the weekend of Father's Day. Yeah, I'm not good like that. June the 17th through the 20th. Yeah, it will be in person. We will be wearing masks. We will encourage masks. I'm probably going to order some Cosmicon masks that will sell super cheap, like probably at or close to cost. Just to encourage people more so because people are ridiculous with the mask stuff. It's that's a whole video.
Topic. I was actually feeling like we could kind of wind this down and wrap it up. Mario, where can people find you? What are you working on? If they have questions or want to commission you, basically the floor is yours. Promote yourself. Tell people what you're doing.
If you Google the Artisan Rogue, the username and the handle I use, you can find me anywhere, literally on every single platform except for Twitch. That's next on the thing. I just joined TikTok, and that's been unique. That's been different. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't it's one of those things where until I uploaded a video, I hadn't had that feeling of like showing up to a party with a bunch of teenagers. That's what hit me. I'm like, hello, fellow kids. I just felt like so awkward, but it was fine. And people have been very cool about it and everything else like that. And I think it's fun. There's one dude on there that explained it to me. He messaged me and he was like, oh, dude, just do whatever the hell you want. Like, it's just for fun. I'm like, okay, then that for that. Other places you can find me. I am on Etsy. It's actually got a bunch of your stuff on there too, Ben. A lot of designs I've worked on for you on there. But yeah, otherwise, you can also check out most of my stuff on theartisanrogue.com. And again, just look up the Artisan Rogue.
You do blog
and
posts
you'll find
too, right?
all the links everywhere.
You talk about a lot of your convention experiences on your blog.
Yeah, I do. So the blog was primarily created because I wanted somewhere. This has been really helpful, and this is something else I recommend for a lot of people. Take the time to write down your experiences at a show. I promise you'll remember the good things and maybe some of the bad things that happened, but you'll forget all the other things, the nuances, who you met, people, pictures, all this other stuff. So that was why. And I think I've got I'm still archiving a lot lot of the old ones, but it's something like 13 years of shows I've done that's on there. Kind of a trip, because sometimes it's fun to go back through those things and say, wow, I met somebody like 3 years ago that I'm like, they've been in the background of a lot of my photos for 6-7 years because we've known the same people, and it's kind of like a Where's Waldo thing. But it's also nice to have that, because I've actually, and this has been really kind of a cool side thing, I've had people that have reached out to me and said, I'm really grateful you reviewed the show, because I didn't know if I wanted to go or not, but I really liked how you did it. I liked the photography and that sort of thing. So that's been really good. And then that's also led to people following me on YouTube and also listening to my podcast as well, too, which is, now that I say all that shit out loud, I really do have no problem understanding why I don't sleep very much.
Yeah. Well,
I'm like, fuck.
You're welcome. All you had to do was listen, Mario. All you had to do was listen.
I want to...
It's full circle. It's full circle.
I want to thank Mario for talking to us. This has been a really great experience. I hope to have you again in the future. If you'll come back on the show and talk to us again about art or about life or about anything that's on your mind. So we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have a few final thoughts for you. Stick around for more podcast after this. And welcome back. Wow, we went through quite a lot of stories and really good advice from Mario on being an artist in this day and age, and some differences with like how things used to be. Yeah. But I think basically the takeaway from this episode was make sure that you rest. Make sure that you have time to not do things. Make sure that you're taking that time to be away from the creativity, away from the hustle, and just absorb. Just allow yourself to just exist for an amount of time. We also learned that there's no one path to becoming an artist. That everybody's going to be different, and depending on what you want to do, there's no one magical piece of advice that's going to make you a successful artist or creative. But there are some tips that can go along with that. And Mario kind of walked us through some of these, and we talked about them, like, focus on yourself and focus on being a reliable person, and that you are good to work with. And, it doesn't matter what your skill level is if you can be personable and reliable. If there's a niche that you can find your niche and do something that's kind of out there and weird, or that's like really, esoteric, because there's going to be a market for it. Even if it's something that almost nobody's heard of, somebody's heard of it, and they're going to appreciate it. And embrace what you love. That was something he said that I really resonated with me. Make sure that you embrace the things that you love to do. Don't do stuff just because other people are doing it, or just because you think that's what's going to make you a lot of money. Embrace the things that you love and let that come out in the creative things that you're doing. And give a shit. That was another thing that really resonated with me when Mario was talking about it, is just give a shit about what you're doing, and the rest will just kind of fall into place. If you care, then everything else will just support you in that, and other people can tell if you care. And you have to make that effort to show people that you give a shit. Because, like the story Mario told about being in this interview, and they thought that he was bored and uninterested because he didn't give his opinions. He didn't come forward and show that he really gave a shit about the project. And he acknowledged that, if I just show that I care in some way, even if that's just giving an opinion, then I seem interested, and maybe more work can come my way. And finally, over everything else, being a creative or getting a job as creative, or maybe just a job in general, basically boils down to this. It's not what you know, it's who you know. If you can create a network of supportive people, or find other people that are already into what you're wanting to get into, you can get into it that much easier, and have support and have people that want to see you succeed if you seek out other people.
Yeah. Ben really nailed it.
I know.
He said it all.
Ben just pretty much just said everything we were going to say. We're going to leave you now. Thank you guys for stopping by.
I mean, really though, Ben said it all. There's a bunch of notes you can take from the show. Really It's not what you know, it's who you know. Really, it's just being yourself. Make sure you enjoy it, and other people will enjoy it too, whatever the process or creative is. And find the method that works for you. If you get nothing else from this talk, really remember that you have to find what works for you in your life, because that's the thing that matters. Make it work for you. That's really all I got.
So, in the end, literally, being creative is hard as hell. You're going to find trials on whether you can be creative, whether you think you're a good enough creative, whether other people think you're a good enough creative. What do you even do when you are creative? How can you be creative? Creative's hard. But keep it up, because there's people out there besides you, honestly inside, besides you, that want to see your creation come to life. So literally, being creative is tough.
That's a really good thought, because it is. We could probably go on with more stories and stuff, but I think this is a good place for us to wrap up this episode. If you'd like to support us and find us online, go to amusingmindspodcast.com. Everything's there. You can find all of our social links, ways to support the program bus on the virtual air. So thank you so much for joining us and listening and watching on YouTube. We will see you in the next podcast.